Hello, everyone. It's time for the error code show, and we really have some good error codes for this week. Jay's gonna go off a little later. It is the error code show for January 9th. It's your place for news, pop culture, politics, gaming, whatever the hell else we want to talk about that week. If you are watching us on Amazon, you can use Prime subs. Right? Give us Amazon's money. Okay. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free sub on Twitch. So you could use that for our show. It'd be great. We gained a couple more subscribers. We're jumping to 500, right? We need to get like 500 and then we need to hit the 1,000. So go ahead and subscribe, hit those notifications. It'll tell you when we go live, and then we can, you'll always know when we're there. Okay. Yeah. It's very important. Okay. With that out of the way, we're going to jump into our first segment tonight. We're going to start with our breaking news segments. Man, those LA wildfires have been absolutely insane. Have you been seeing the footage from this?
Yeah. At first when I heard about like California fires, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like, okay, like that happens a lot. But then when I started seeing like the footage, I was like, holy crap. Okay. This is really bad.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of Los Angeles. Like it is bad. So I don't even know where to start. Most of it started around the Pacific Palisades area. From what I understand, the Pacific Palisades area is essentially gone. Like it's just that entire portion of Los Angeles has been wiped out. 2 or 3 more fires have started over the last couple of days. A lot of this was exacerbated initially by something that people in Southern California know really well, which is the Santa Ana winds. And what those are is it's winds that are coming in from that eastern desert east of Los Angeles, and they whip through. It's every year the Santa Ana winds come through, but they get up like 80, 90 mile an hour winds. And when you combine that with fire, those embers just fly, right? And Los Angeles has received a much less than a normal amount of rainfall for this time of year, which kind of soaks a lot of that stuff up. And it has been absolutely freaking terrible for them. I think they're trying to get some of this stuff contained. From up here in Seattle, like I know that Snohomish County, which is where I'm at, which is just north of Seattle, they sent 24 firefighters down there. Oregon sent firefighters down there. Las Vegas has sent firefighters. They have guys coming in from Northern California. Canadians have sent some amphibious planes that I saw, like going into the reservoirs and picking up water, and just wow. But the push has been heavy to get these out.
What do we know what caused the fire?
I've heard a lot of rumors, but I don't think they've traced back where it started. A careless smoker chucking a butt into the bushes. I mean, it can be anything, right? Because the littlest spark can just light one of them up. It started as a 1 acre, and then it blew up to like 200 acres in 20 minutes, and it was just, that was it. They were done. They're like, well, we're off to the races now. So, our hearts go out to everybody out there in Los Angeles. If you're watching this, the 2 best places I've seen to donate, and I'll be making a couple donations tomorrow. The American Red Cross, obviously, they do a lot with disaster relief. And then World Central Kitchen, which is a food nonprofit that operates out of the Southern California area. They are doing stuff. So I heavily encourage our viewers, if you've got even like a buck or two, right, to those organizations, when you start stacking those up with a few 100,000 people donating, it makes a big difference. So even, like I said, even if it's only $1 or $2, that you can spare, the American Red Cross and World Central Kitchen, those are probably the 2 best that I know of. The LA Firefighters Foundation as well, because they do a lot of relief stuff for the firefighters. I think firefighters are the one set of first responders we can all agree that we all like. Right? I know I was watching an interview, they were talking to one of the guys, and he was like, yeah, we haven't slept in 2 days. Just rough on those guys. So, yeah, like I said, keep those people in your thoughts. Um, try to push back on all the people. This is the other response I've seen is, well, those people, California is stupid, liberal, do, and also, we don't feel bad for them because it's movie star. There are people who live in Los Angeles who are not rich. People who've lived there their whole lives, and they're gonna have a hell of a time rebuilding. Much like Florida, this is actually one you'll be able to go with it. A lot of the insurance companies have pulled out recently.
Yeah.
Because of the fires.
That'll be really interesting because this actually happened with Hurricane Michael, which was the last major hurricane that I was a part of. A lot of insurance companies went out of business and couldn't actually process claims from Hurricane Michael. Hurricane Michael is a Category 5 hurricane. I will say the state did step in and offered relief in that situation. So maybe California will do the same. I'm not sure, but
like Florida, California does have a insurance provider of last resort if your stuff is pulled and you can't get a new one. So, but I mean, I'm sure you know this from Florida too. Those things go insolvent really fast, right? Because everybody falls back on them. Yeah. And then you have a disaster like this and it's freaking gone. So I said, if you can, throw them a couple of bucks, right? Like it's a good thing, like hit up the American Red Cross, World Central Kitchen. They'll be able to get some aid that I'm sure there are a lot of people down there who desperately need it right now. All right. Moving on to our next topic tonight. So after the immense success of Barbie last year, Greta Gerwig, who directed the Barbie movie, announced that she was going to be working on a new adaptation of the Chronicles of Narnia book series for Netflix. This raised some eyebrows. So the Chronicles of Narnia books came out back in the late 40s, early 50s. They were written by C.S. Lewis, who is a very close friend of J.R.R. Tolkien, right? They are a fantasy book series more aimed at a YA audience, and even back then they were aimed at a young adult audience. What's interesting about the Chronicles of Narnia is they have some very not well veiled Christianity references. Like they're all over the Chronicles of Narnia. It's all about Jesus, baby. But set in a fantasy world where called Narnia, and Jesus is Aslan, and he's a lion, and there's children and things like that. Anyway, it was a very, very popular YA book series. It's been adapted. Portions of it have been adapted twice before. Again, it's 7 books is the entire series. The BBC adapted 4 of the books back in the late 80s, right? Then Walden Media under the Disney umbrella, which is the ones I think you and I were talking about in the pre-show, they did the first 2 or 3 movies. I think they did the first 3 books, right? And then it kind of died, right? And they did those during that whole, like, everybody's making YA fantasy adaptations period about a decade ago. What brought this up today is Amy Pascal, who's a well-known Hollywood producer. She produced things like all kinds of stuff. She worked with Greta Gerwig on Barbie. She was being interviewed by Deadline, and she's like, this whole new series is going to be about rock and roll. And everybody looking at the series went, I'm sorry, what now? You're going to turn the fantasy books that are veiled allusions to Christianity into rock and roll?
It's a pun. It's funny. Rock roll. Get it? Because you had to roll away the rock to reveal that the tomb was empty. It's another Christianity reference.
There you go.
It's actually rock and roll.
Yeah. Something. So Jay, you said you had seen the adaptations that were done by Walden Media, which is the most recent ones, right? From those, did you gather that it's a deep allusion to Christianity?
No, I did not. I did not know that. But I mean, like it makes sense. Like
Aslan
thinking,
sacrifices himself and then he comes back to
and
life.
there you go and you hide in the closet just like you hide in Christianity. It makes sense. It does. But
Uh,
yeah.
um, here's the thing. This is why I'm intrigued by this project. A couple reasons. So, for those that have watched me for a long, long time, know that when it was announced that Greta Gerwig was doing Barbie, like I eyebrow raised at that. I was like, wait, what? Greta Gerwig is doing the Barbie movie. Okay, this is, and I knew then before, and again, I have the YouTube videos to prove it. I was like, I'm telling you, this is not going to be a normal Barbie movie. Like, she's up to something, because she's always up to something, right? This is her style of filmmaking. And then the Barbie movie came out. I was proven correct. Have you saw the Barbie movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So having her kind of subversive look at it is interesting to me. Knowing what you do, knowing that Greta Gerwig's directing it, would you at least give the first movie a shot?
Oh, I mean, we always keep going back to this. Like I have the A-lister through AMC. So I will definitely go see the movie. 100% definitely go see it, give it a shot, try it out. I'm not a huge fan of musicals though, so like
It's
that's a
that's the
little
thing is, I'm not sure it's gonna be a musical. I'm also not sure how you would turn these into a musical, but okay. So yeah, again, everybody's kind of going, what does she mean by this? Like, is that just like a stylistic thing? Like we're gonna modernize them? So to give everybody just a teeny primer, in the order that they were published, the first book that was published was a book called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And it's about these four kids during World War II. That live in London. They are sent out of London, as actually was common in England at that time when it was being bombed by the Nazis. They were sent to live with a distant relative who didn't live in the city, way out in the country, right? This old professor guy who lived in this big giant house, right? And that's where they find the wardrobe, which is like the magic portal into Narnia, right? And so they go into Narnia and they have an adventure and they become kings and queens in Narnia as children. And then they come out of the wardrobe after they grow up in Narnia and become adults in Narnia. They go back and, oh, they're kids again, and no time has passed, right? I don't know how you rock and roll up that story.
yeah, I don't know.
I look, I have all the faith in the world in Greta Gerwig, but
Would it be like VeggieTales, but with like a lion and children?
okay, and again, without speaking about Greta Gerwig's personal belief systems or anything like that, I would guess that she's not doing this for religious reasons. Just a theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I again, it really confuses me what she's going to be up to with this because I can't figure it out. Like, and and again, so I was given the Narnia books when I was a child, right? When I was probably 9 or 10, right? And I read all the Narnia books because again, at first blush for kids, it's just a fun fantasy story about kids who defeat an evil white witch with the help of their magic lion.
Dope.
Right? And then they come back to Narnia and they go on more adventures and they leave and they come back to Narnia and they go there's lots of adventures. It does get a little weird toward the end, and I don't even know how you adapt a couple of the books because it's like, which is why nobody's ever managed to make it past book 4.
Oh.
Right? Books 5, 6, and 7 have never been adapted. And so I don't know how deep Greta's going to get into this. I don't know if Netflix and Sony and all those guys are planning on trying to do all 7 books. I have no idea, or if they're like, well, we'll do the one, and then, if it's good, we'll do more of them. I don't know. But again, where Amy Pascal's like, oh, it's rock and roll. And I'm like, the children are fleeing the Nazis. And then they do some stuff. I don't get it. Like, what's the idea here? Again, I'll give Greta Gerwig the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe it would be like really dark, like they actually show the bombs dropping.
You know what though? Because
the Sandman comes in, like, damn.
Because the Christians love this so much, I can see this turning into a whole big controversy, depending on how she approaches this one, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Barbie created its own version of controversy when she released that, right? It went on to be wildly successful, right? She made them folks a lot of money. But make no mistake, Greta Gerwig does not make standard run-of-the-mill flicks.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know what to expect from that. But then again, I didn't really understand how you're going to make an entire movie out of Barbie. So there's that.
She did it. She did it. And she did a good job with it. So let us know down in the comments. Throw it in the chat. So apparently Greta Gerwig's Narnia adaptation is going to be rock and roll, which... okay. I have no idea what you're going to do. But now I'm really, really curious to see where Greta goes with this. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. All right. Look there. For those, because I can see some of y'all hanging out there in the viewer stream. It's there's a few in there now. Welcome to the show, everybody. We talked a little bit about the fires. We did some other stuff. We're rolling through our rundowns, but as always, if you have any topics that you would like to talk about, or anything like that, drop them in the chat and we'll try and get to those at the end of the show. We went a little long last week. We might cut it a little shorter this week, but let us know, what you think. All right, moving right along. Jay, you were just mentioning that you're an AMC A-List member, and I didn't even realize there was a Screen Unseen this week. It didn't come up on my app, and I was a little upset about it. So, you saw the Screen Unseen this week, and something surprising.
Yeah. So I saw the movie, it turned out to be movie Better Man. For those of you not quite sure what movie that is, that's the movie featuring a singing chimp, and is... like his backstory of becoming a pop star. It's also the true story of singer Robbie Williams, who, like me, you probably never heard of unless you were into early 90s UK boy bands. But Robbie Williams has evidently sold over 80 million records worldwide. And once I looked him up, I did realize I did know one of his songs, titled Angels, which goes, I know that life won't break me. When I come to call, she won't forsake me. I'm loving angels instead. We all know it. I don't need to sing it. It says sing.
Well, and I don't want the copyright strike from YouTube or Twitch. So no, we're not. That's why we're not playing the song. I don't need copyright strikes.
Yeah. But yeah, it was actually surprising. I actually kind of enjoyed it. It was interesting. It's not a movie that I probably would have went and saw, to be completely honest. It just didn't look like my thing. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Again, that's one of the nice things about A-List and Screen Unseen is you will dump into stuff that you wouldn't normally see, and I think that that's great. So here's what I want to know: how do they connect the story of because I've seen the posters for Better Man at my local AMC. How do they connect this is a story about a chimp to this is the true story of singer Robbie Williams? So can you break that down? Because that, like, I've seen the posters for Better Man, and nowhere in there would I be like, oh, this is the true story of how Robbie Williams became a pop star.
Do you? Okay, I guess like first question back at you. Do you know who Robbie Williams is? Like,
I
have
I
you heard of
do. I do because I am a weird person who is sadly overly connected to pop culture, for
him?
which I blame my mother.
Okay.
That's something to unpack for another time.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we will not culture shame anyone. But to answer your question, I think he kind of says like, this is like my story of like and how like I view myself and he views himself as this kind of like kind of chimp. They don't really get into it a whole lot. Like in the beginning, I didn't even know this was like a real person. Like I thought it was just a chimp. And then at the very end of the movie, like during the credits, they took some of the scenes from the movie where there was a chimp and showed real pictures of Robbie Williams, obviously not as a chimp. And then I was like, wait. I was like, what? I was like, is this a real person? And my wife was like, yeah, Robbie Williams. And I'm like, who the hell is Robbie Williams? And then like, of course, like she goes to the restroom after the movie, and I'm like typing like Robbie Williams. Who the hell is this? Um, yeah, so they don't like really explain that. I think it's kind of like a artistic kind of touch. You could probably get into psychology a little bit there. Um, Robbie Williams does struggle, or he did struggle a lot, like most young entertainers, with like, for instance, like who he is really. Why does he do the things that he does? Suicide, stuff like that. Because he started at the age of 15. He started at the age of 15, and according to the movie, the group that he was a part of, I forgot what it's called, Take That or something. Anyways, the little boy band that he started off with, um, they were playing at gay sex clubs when he was 15.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was so desperate to try to be someone else, be someone better. Like he wanted to become a star because he kind of thought like his life kind of sucked. So he was willing to be whoever people needed him to be, which obviously led down a very sad story of drug abuse, um, suicide things. They get into like his marriage, the baby that they had, blah blah blah, blah all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil the entire thing, but also
It's a
it's about
biopic,
a
so
person. So like I don't know. Um yeah, it was a very interesting movie. It was very shocking. It was way better than I thought it was going to be.
all right. So there you go, folks. Go check out Better Man. Again, I've seen the posters, but had no context to what the hell it was supposed to be. So, good on them. It must have just come out. Let's take a look. Um, see how it's doing in the box office so far. Um, made a couple of bucks. So it just came out. Um, obviously the place that is doing the best is the United Kingdom, which if Robbie Williams is a big British pop star, for them, I mean that makes the most sense. Um, it hasn't done phenomenal, but oh wow, it's only made 100,000 in the U.S.
Well, I think it's a little weird because I think they've like opened it to very small locations. Because I'm showing that it's supposed to open up everywhere. According to IMDb, it looks like January 17th.
So I wonder if those are just previews and stuff. Weird. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I've seen the posters, had no idea what it was about. If I get some time, I might go take a look at it. Because that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So there you go, folks. Have you seen Better Man? based on what we're telling you, are you thinking it might be fun to watch now? Let us know down in the comments below. All right. Okay. Sorry, I got to run back to my rundown doc. Oh, this one. This one might take a minute. Okay. So, for our next topic today, obviously in the MCU, having some of the characters they've put in there have been just straight up amazing. Black Panther was masterfully played by Chadwick Boseman prior to his very unexpected and very, untimely death from cancer. Initially, after his death, the studio said, we're not going to recast. We don't think that's honoring Chadwick's legacy. We don't want to do it. We think it's disrespectful to Chadwick Boseman. So they released Black Panther 2. And in Black Panther 2, they made Shuri the Black Panther. Because that's what Ryan Coogler wrote. But it appears that Disney and the folks over at Marvel may have changed their mind. So this broke yesterday over at the InSnyder. So he's really good at, he's generally pretty right. He's one of the very few like online only guys who generally gets it correct. He's saying that Marvel is going to recast the role of T'Challa with a new actor. What's most interesting about that is apparently they've already offered it to somebody and they got turned down. Right? They offered it to a, how does he quote it here? A prominent black actor. And they said no. They didn't want to halt their own career momentum by trying to step into Chadwick Boseman's shoes. Is what Jeff Snyder's saying. So I find this interesting for a couple of reasons, right? One, I think that it kind of goes to show that their experiment making Shuri the Black Panther just didn't work, right? I think that that's what they're seeing. There was also some issues with the actress who was playing Shuri when they were filming. That's a whole other ball of kittens. And I think they see with Secret Wars coming up and all the weird multiversal that it's going to be easier to explain a recast now. So, here's my two questions to you, Jay. One, do you think it's a good idea to recast T'Challa? And if they do, who do you think, what are some names you think would be good for that role? Ah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Wow. Those are some big questions there. I think it's very hard to continue the Marvel Cinematic Universe without a superhero like him. I do feel like it's a little too soon.
It's been 5 years.
5 years, really?
That's about. He died in 2020.
Wow, I did not know that. Okay.
Time flies.
Yeah, time flies when you're having amazing politics stories like we are right now. This is this gets into this is a risk. This is a huge risk, which you kind of have to do in the business world. The whole reason, for instance, why we are on Thursdays now is because I am in a business strategy class for my MBA currently. And we're talking a lot about like, you have to, like, strategy is all about like looking at the risk and then choosing kind of like which risk you want to take on, or a lot of times like what you don't want, or like you choose not to do some things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is, I think this is a huge risk on them that they're kind of like rolling the dice. This is obviously part of their pretty big, hopefully well thought out strategy plan here. Um, I don't know from a comic book point of view, like you said, it does make sense to kind of recast now. You can easily explain it away. Um, I think people are going to be tied too much, right? Um, I think people are going to view this as like, how can you replace him? You know? Um, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, like, yes, we've had many Batmans throughout the years, even going all the way back to Adam West.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't really ever have a superhero die on us and then had a recast because of that.
So they've they've done 4 recastings, major recastings in the MCU that I can think of. And chat, I see that question. I'm going to address that question there in chat here in just a second. So within the MCU, the only other time they've recast due to death is Thunderbolt Ross, because William Hurt died, and so now Harrison Ford is taking on that character in the upcoming Falcon and the Winter Soldier movie, right? And so that's the only other time they've had to recast due to death, right? They recasted Rhodey after Iron Man 1 to Don Cheadle, which both from a, don't get me wrong, I love, God, why can't I think of his name? The guy who played Rhodey in Iron Man 1. He's great. He was amazing. Apparently it was a contract issue was why they recasted. They just couldn't come to terms on the contract. And that was the very beginning. This was not like now. When you sign an MCU contract as an actor now, it's always a multi-film deal. It's usually you're going to headline 2 movies, but you're appearing in at least 4 more or something along those lines, right? Those guys don't sign single film deals. That was the very beginning of the MCU, so they didn't know they had to get these guys on multi-film deals right out the gate and stuff like that, you know, because the MCU was new. They didn't even know it was going to work. So that's the only time. So that's a recast. And then technically Mark Ruffalo is a recast, because the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk is in the MCU. Everybody forgets about it. It kind of flies past everybody. Post credits, right? William Hurt's in that as Thunderbolt Ross. Tony Stark shows up in the post credits. They recast Ed Norton to Mark Ruffalo. Again, pretty good recasting. I was fine with that recasting. As much as I love Edward Norton. I think he's a great actor. I thought he was a fun Bruce. I thought he did a good job in that Hulk movie. As far as whether it's too, I don't know. I know that their experiment with Shuri didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Chat's asking, why are they trying to recast rather than use AI? Because quite frankly, I've looked at some of the AI output stuff, and I think that Disney's at the point where it's just not good enough, right? The AI that's out there just is not good enough to do what they want it to do. Most AI stuff I've seen still looks really uncanny valley, janky. It just doesn't look right. And 2, I don't think Disney wants the controversy.
Yeah.
They just don't. They are going to be very careful about their use of AI because they don't want the controversy. And you're coming back to the chat with the unethical. It's not, again, to them, it's less about ethics. It's more about PR. And I think the PR of trying to create T'Challa whole cloth out of composite Chadwick Boseman, I don't know if they have the rights to do it, because there is, like, you have to buy the rights. So, for example, James Earl Jones sold the rights to his voice to Disney to use for Darth Vader. Right? So if they produce something where Darth Vader's in it, they will not recast it. They will use composited James Earl Jones AI dialogue to do the voice, because James Earl Jones sold them the rights to do so. I don't know if Chadwick Boseman's estate did the same. I doubt it. Um, but yeah, I think from a PR standpoint, I think it's a bad idea. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Also, I just like I think it's just really expensive. Like Marvel movies are already expensive. Adding the extra cost of having to AI slash CGI someone else's face on someone else, like that has to be kind of expensive. So yeah, I think it's just like easier just to recast if you are going to do like go that route. But yeah, I just don't I just don't know. It's gonna be very interesting to see how they kind of pull that off. Your second question of who?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't even know. I know like if I was in a very similar situation, yeah, I 100%
Would turn
agree
it
with
down.
whoever turn it down because it's just
It's
I feel like
fraught.
it's too risky as an actor to kind of try to do that. It's oh, I don't know.
Um, so here's a couple that I've thought of off the top of my head. Number one on my list is John David Washington.
Who is that?
Uh, he was the lead in Tenet.
Okay, yes. Yes, he's on Ballers as well, I think.
He was in Black Klansman, right? He was in The Creator. Um, he's Denzel Washington's son. Which again, part of the reason this came up, I was watching the show and they were talking about this because Denzel let slip that Ryan Coogler's writing him a role in Black Panther 3, which is coming after Secret Wars at some point. Right? So I think it would be fun. I think he's a really good actor. I think again with the with the Marvel training, you know what I mean? Um I think that he could do it. I really do. Um I don't want somebody too old. You know what I mean? I want somebody kind of young. You know, um, I'm all for them finding a uh, a new actor. Here was one somebody brought up in the chat on the show that I watch, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this are. Michael B. Jordan,
So that's who I was like literally just looking at and
because he was
thinking about.
Killmonger in Black Panther 1,
Yeah.
but multiverse, right? In another universe, did he become the Black Panther?
I
We
mean,
know he
that's
can carry a movie.
yeah. I kind of like that kind of oh, in this universe he is Black Panther. I think that's a fun little spin. Um
Yeah, I think that's not a bad spin. Again, John David Washington's probably the one. If you're gonna get like somebody relatively well known, right? That's probably the direction that I would go. I mean, but you need somebody who can carry a movie. And Chadwick could do and again, I'm curious. I wish Jeff Snyder had found out who turned it down. Um, Here's the thing: he may know who turned it down. He may not just have put it into his article. Um, you know, I mean, now give credit to the Marvel casting department. They're really good at what they do. They have been really, really on point as far as casting people. There have been very few times in Marvel like movies where I'm like, that was miscast. You know what I mean? Like, can you think of any off the top of your head where they really screwed the casting up
uh,
for
uh
their main characters? Because I can't. Chat, help me out here if you could think of some. Because for their main like mainline characters, I think they've knocked it out of the park every time.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
You know who might be able to do it? John Boyega.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to give him a shot. I'd be willing to give John Boyega a shot. I think he got kind of the short end of the stick with Star Wars. I think John Boyega could. I'd give him a shot as Black Panther, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I do kind of I'm kind of wondering about this. Like Hayden Christensen has said that like Star Wars ruined his film career.
But now he's
Uh
come back.
he is coming back.
He has. I thought he did
But
great in Obi-Wan
yeah, I agree. But that's another Star Wars movie.
and
Like
Ahsoka.
um when Star Wars came out, like the critics like ruined like Hayden Christensen.
Oh yeah.
Like they like, ate him up saying the acting was horrible, he was horrible. Like Star Wars fans love him. And then
Now,
outside
now
of
they
that,
do. See,
yeah.
everybody forgets. Everybody wants to forget. Everybody crapped on the prequels. Everybody crapped on the prequels when they came out. Believe me. I remember. I was there for the Deep Magic, dude. People were upset. Right? They were upset with a lot of things George did.
Misa Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Black Panther. I think that I think they've got a tall order. Marvel's done a good job casting in the past. But yeah, this one's risky.
Yeah.
I do think if you're going to keep the Black Panther character in there, you should recast.
Yes. I agree.
You know.
But stepping into that, it's like the same as like replacing Robert Downey Jr. It's not going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, folks, let us know down in the comments. Who would you like to see as the new Black Panther? What should they do? Is there any actors you like for the role? Or do you think they should just kind of like quietly drop the character? Let us know down in the comments below. Speaking of recasting, I'm not going to do this as a full segment, but did you watch Ahsoka?
Yeah.
So you know Ray Stevenson, who played Balin Skull, the Dark Jedi guy?
Yes.
He died.
Yes.
So
yes.
They have recast his role officially.
Okay.
So Rory McCann, who played the Hound,
Oh, okay. Wow.
is actually good friends with him in real life. Was good friends with him when he was alive.
Oh.
Right? So we got this report today. Yep, Rory McCann to inherit late friend Ray Stevenson's role in Ahsoka Season 2. I think it's a good recast. I thought he was great as the Hound. I'm glad because watching Ahsoka, the show, I was like, man, something's going on with Balin. He's up to something. Like there was some deep storyline shit going on there. Like why he was trying to get out to the place, why he was so interested in this. He didn't see, like, he wasn't a Sith, but there was, like, he was up to some shit. And when Ray Stevenson died, I was like, oh, damn. Right? So, knowing they recast that, and I think it's a good recasting. What do you think?
I like it because I mean I really did like that actor and I think he did a great job in Ahsoka season 1.
He was one of the best parts in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and there was just so much mystery around him and when I heard that he passed away, the same thing. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like are we going to know like everything they had planned?" So the Hound, really liked the Hound in Game of Thrones. I think it's a good call. Yeah, it's gonna seem like a little weird probably, but I I think they can pull it off. I think the actor can pull it off. It's yeah, I'm all for it because I'm so invested in like where did you want to go? Like continue that story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, they were going for the deep lore with that guy, and yeah, I was really really interested to see. So yeah, the character of Balin Skull will live on. It also is nice that it's his friend, right? Like they were close friends in real life,
Yeah.
and so the fact that he's taking over that role, I think is nice. So it's kind of heartwarming. All right, folks. Once again, before we jump into this next topic, if you've got anything you want us to talk about before we start getting really salty here, go ahead and drop it into the chat. I don't know if it's going to be salty, if we're going to laugh, what we're going to say in this next segment, but it's going to get interesting.
I mean, you're just already showing everyone. It's up there.
Oh yeah. Sorry, let me go back to the other one.
If you're
okay. That doesn't matter. We haven't started recording yet. We'll fix it all in post. Because I haven't started recording the segment yet. Which is what I'm gonna do now. Take it away, Jay.
Okay, so nothing interesting happened in the land of politics at all. I don't really know. Let's see here. Can we and this is probably all outdated from what, 2 days ago that I wrote this?
No, they're still talking about it. It's all still up to date. He was talking about it today after Jimmy Carter's funeral.
Oh God.
So, yeah, for those that missed that, all of the living sitting presidents were all at Jimmy Carter's funeral. There was a lot of attention paid to some of the video, and we'll get into that later. But they were all at Jimmy Carter's funeral today. So Trump was there, Obama, Bush, Clinton, all of them. So anyway, why don't you talk about what our soon to be president's up to this week?
Oh God, let's see here. So he talked about literally a land grab. Quote: "You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like." Talked about January 6th making quote major pardons to a lot of the people that were facing charges or did face charges on January 6th, because that is what he does. If you have his back, he has your back. He called out Hamas, quote: "If those hostages aren't back, dot dot dot, by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East, and it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone." Yeah, he doubled down on the Panama Canal.
Mhm.
Asked when he was asked directly whether we would rule out using military or economic coercion to get the Panama Canal, he said, quote, "No, I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this, we need them for economic security, whatever the hell that means." Let's see here. I don't know. It's a never ending line. He said Denmark should give up their control of Greenland, or it would also have to face steep tariffs. He also suggested the people of Greenland should vote for independence or to join the United States. He wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. I don't know. He said windmills are quote littering our country and compared them to quote dropping garbage in a field. I yeah, there was that. I don't even know what that means. Let's hear. And then also because Mark Zuckerberg kind of came out, and it seems like he tried to suck up to Daddy Trump and also Daddy Elon. And in case you don't know, Facebook is getting rid of all fact checkers on Facebook and Instagram. So Trump commented on that, saying that, quote, Mark has come a long way. So it looks like he's becoming friends with Mark Zuckerberg. And yeah, there's so much garbage.
And he's not even in office yet.
He's not even in office. And it's literally the thing that I heard it and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. Like that can't be real." And then you watch the video and you're like, and it really kind of seems like he during the press conference, he was like, "How much shit can I just dump into this one press conference?" And he went on to make really weird comments about water dripping out of faucets. I don't freaking know. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Alex? There's so much to take in here.
So I like to break it into constituent parts, right? Like themes, right? Mise en scène, if you will. Okay. Let's talk about Palestine real fast. I heard this quote this week, and I think it's an apt quote, right? Trump says he's going to make it hell on earth, and the Palestinians are looking around, going, "I'm sorry, what now? It can't be worse." Like, what are you gonna do? That's my thing on that particular negotiating tactic that he's using. What are you gonna do? The Israelis already did it. It's done. There are no more hospitals in Gaza. They've moved into the West Bank. They've literally fired shit at Iran, Syria, Lebanon, anybody that got even a little bit squirrely with them. Okay? What are you going to do? Like, seriously. So, I on the Hamas thingy, I'll be honest, I don't think he's going to do squat. Because I think he's a paper tiger, and I think that he's just going to there's nothing left to do. That's it. You've done it. Right? Okay? He has 11 days until he takes office. They're not going to get... If anything, the Israelis might just agree to a ceasefire just to agree to a ceasefire, but it has nothing to do with him or anything else. I don't know. This weird manifest destiny expansionism shit he's on with Panama and Canada and Greenland. One, Canada is still a Commonwealth country. Like, they would have to go through the process of leaving the Commonwealth of the United Kingdom because they have a monarch right now. His name's King Charles. He's already there. Like, I don't even know what that process would look like, right? And even the new guy, because Trudeau resigned, right? So the guy they think that the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada is like, no. You're not going to take over Canada. You can keep talking. No. So, and again, I honestly don't think the Danes are going to give up Greenland. But did you see that Don Jr. went to Greenland?
Oh, I did not.
No, yeah. Don Jr.'s been in Greenland all week doing photo ops with whoever he can con into putting on a MAGA hat. Okay, in Greenland. Panama, I can see him trying some crap. It is a important strategic point, right? You don't want to go all the way down around. It's the only way to go through. The Panama Canal needs upgrades. It's actually in pretty bad shape right now. It can't handle most of the major super tankers anymore. The ships are too big, and it wasn't designed for them. None of this has anything to do with the price of eggs. He's been saying the same shit about windmills for a while. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all those motherfuckers are kissing the ring. That's what they're doing. That's why Trump likes TikTok now. Because I'm very popular on TikTok. They love me over on the TikToks. So no, we shouldn't shut down the TikTok. They should sell to an American company. ByteDance isn't going to sell them. Sorry.
Yeah.
They came out today. No, Greenland. Yeah, Greenland will not let themselves be part of the U.S. And did you see Denmark's response?
No, I did not.
Yeah, the Prime Minister of Denmark said, well, since everything in America is for sale, to include the presidency of the United States, we'd be happy to buy the United States. We think with our socialized medicine and our social safety nets and things like that, we could really transform and make America great. Not again, just great.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know who is putting this shit in his head. Because it's not him. It is the people around him who are feeding him shit. This is the way it's always been with Don. Okay? He doesn't come up with these ideas on his own.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm 100% sure. 100%.
Hmm.
I had a friend who, this is before Donnie Boy got into politics. Please keep in mind, I'm in my 40s, so, I remember the time when he was just on Celebrity Apprentice and had stuff. I had a friend who was on Wall Street when Trump was trying to refinance properties. This is before his political days. And most of the street wouldn't deal with him. That's why he ended up going to Deutsche Bank, because they were the only ones. They were shady as fuck. Notice Deutsche Bank was sanctioned for, money laundering for drug cartels. The ones who would deal with him, right? Because he's nuts. Yeah, somebody's feeding him these ideas. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's Elon or Flynn or who the hell it is.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think, Jay, that before a week ago he spent any amount of time thinking about the Panama Canal? Before somebody said China's using it to him.
Well, I'm not really sure how the lizard people race really think. You know, like I don't really know like what goes through their minds, like how thoughts are formed. Um, but yeah, I could see it. I could so also kind of like tying this into what was that called? Project 2025 because he had nothing to do with that, right? That document, that like
No.
400-page
Mm-mm.
garbage.
Yeah, that was the Heritage
So
Foundation.
so someone, obviously a group of people came together and did that.
Yeah,
So there are crazy people out there in
sure.
America. It's not just
So
Donald Trump.
the Heritage Foundation put out a similar document before every presidential election since their inception. It's usually called like the Mandate for Leadership or some other goofball fucking term. The Heritage Foundation is a bog standard right-wing think tank, right? That's what they do. And they are one of those think tanks that help funnel people into government. What the Heritage Foundation figured out after Trump's first term was, and Trump admitted this himself, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. So what the Heritage Foundation has spent 4 years doing while Biden was in office was setting this up. Project 2025, the biggest thing they did that nobody talked about was they had this whole website set up for recruitment, right? They knew they needed to staff the government quickly so they could start enacting the agenda, right? Project 2025 actually had disagreements in and of itself because it was a lot of right-wing people trying to decide how far they want to take this, right? But it's all about staffing and getting the administration into a position to do the things that the right-wing project people want to do, right? So he had nothing to do with it. The Heritage Foundation did. That's why I say he doesn't think up these ideas. Somebody's feeding him. So again, as far as the land grab stuff, like, I don't know, Don, are you ready to go to war? Like, seriously, like, and I don't think you are. I don't think you have the stomach for it. And furthermore, I don't think the American people do right now either. You want to watch your approval rating drop into the 20s? Attack Denmark. What are you going to do, invade Canada? I don't even know what happens when you invade a fellow NATO country. Like,
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know. Because it's insane. And no one would think of doing it. Except you. But I don't think you actually want to do it. Because I think you're a chicken.
Yeah. He also, I'm sure everyone knows this, but he also called out NATO countries as well, stating that they should pay 5%, not 2%, and that they're taking advantage of the U.S. Military defense system. But
So this is another thing that drives me absolutely up the wall. Because it just shows that Trump does not know what he's talking about. Nobody pays NATO. It's not them paying their bills. The agreement amongst the NATO countries is that they will spend 2% of their GDP, right? So for simple sakes, if your GDP is 100 billion, you spend 2 billion. Each of the NATO countries is supposed to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. So that in the event that we got to go fight the Soviet Empire, everybody's got an army big enough to contribute to the cause, right? That's what it is. It's not about paying NATO. Now, yes, were there European countries that weren't doing that for a long time? Of course there were, because they were like, fuck it, the United States is doing it and Russia's not doing shit right now. So we'd rather spend our money on things like universal health care, housing, taking care of our people. God, what would 5% of the U.S. GDP be? My God, I can't even like fathom what that would be.
Oh, wow.
What is our GDP? 30.
27.36 trillion.
Okay, so let's pull up a calculator, ladies and gentlemen. 27 trillion, 360 billion times 0.05. So what he's talking about is adding another, and we already spend 800 billion a year on defense. He's talking about spending another 570 billion, 470 to 570 billion a year on defense. On what? And I thought you guys were cutting the budget. Where's Elon with his $2 trillion worth of cuts?
We're gonna need that defense with us like pissing off every country out there.
So, do you want the upside? Because I have an upside for you.
Yeah.
If this is what his next 4 years is like, nothing's going to get done.
Yeah.
He will be as ineffective as he was his first term. His first term, the only thing he did was lower taxes for rich people, balloon the deficit, and screw up COVID. He basically didn't do anything else. He was never able to get anything real done. And I'll be honest, with a razor thin majority in the House and a bare majority in the Senate, I don't know what he's planning on doing. They're walking back the tariff talk. They're walking back the deportation talk. Right? Because I think that again, it makes for great campaign rhetoric for the mass deportations day one. Well, guess what? Now it's time to govern. You don't have the bodies, the manpower to deport every undocumented person in this country. Right? And you know how I know it's all BS? Because when Elon and them, did you see over Christmas when they were fighting about the H-1Bs?
No.
So that, like, Elon, the tech right, and the far right got into this big fight over the holidays about H-1B visas, right? And all the far right people were like, stop the H-1B visas. Stop them, stop them, stop them. And Elon's like, yeah, no. Nope, we need the H-1B visas. And we're going to do that. And then everybody's like, but Donald, what do you think? And Donald went, talk about it, I'm on Elon's side. Right? And he pissed off the anti-migration right. He's like, no, we need to reform. We're not going to get rid of it. And now, the other day, Don came out and was like, I'll work with the Democrats on Dreamers. On the DACA people. Okay. But now his far right people are like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be negotiating with the Democrats on the Dreamers. He doesn't really care. Again, it's great campaign rhetoric. And I'm sure he'll do something nominal when he comes into office. We're going to start with the criminals. Okay. Then what? Start talking to me when you start raiding dairy farms in Iowa. Okay. Or processing plants in, Missouri. In the states where it's really going to fuck them up. That's why I never bought it. I still didn't vote for the guy, and I think again, but that's the other reason why I think he's a paper tiger. Because, Don, I think you're a chicken. Remember that? Do you remember Back to the Future 3?
Remind me.
It's the one where they're in the Old West?
Yes.
And you remember Biff's like, And you remember how Marty used to get mad about being called chicken,
Yeah.
right? And then he's a yellow-bellied chicken, right? Don's chicken. He's a coward. Okay? And I also don't think, again, he's a good marketer. He knows what he's doing. He's got a natural marketing ability. He knows if he goes to war with Denmark, his approval rating is going to drop into the 20s. And he can't stand it. He can't stand it because he wants everybody to love him. You know. Canada doesn't want to be part of us. Although I did see Nate Silver. He posed on his Twitter account. He was like, what states would vote to leave to go to Canada? I was like, Washington. If you put a ballot initiative on Washington State today and said, simple majority vote, we go to Canada, we become part of Canada, that shit would pass. People would be like, dope, we're out of here.
I mean, there's a lot of upsides. There's a lot of upsides. I'm thinking one, the Krakens might be better.
If we were Canadian, our hockey team would be better. That's a good point. That is an excellent point. If we were Canadian, our hockey team would automatically get better. That's true.
Oh God. Second, maple syrup would be cheaper for us because we're Canadians.
Yeah, maple syrup would be cheaper. Lumber would be cheaper because it's where all our stuff, you know. And we'd have universal health care.
Yeah.
And semi-legal prostitution.
What?
No,
Canada
yeah.
has...
Yeah, it's like semi-legal there.
What does that mean?
It's decriminalized, but there's very specific ways that it's decriminalized. It's actually going before their Supreme Court right now. I was listening to a podcast about it the other day, a news report, because there's a new case going to the Canadian Supreme Court to try and clarify some of the points on their rules. So it is not illegal to sell sex in Canada. Right?
Okay.
So if you want to say as a person, I want to sell my body for sex, right? That is not illegal. Everything surrounding it is illegal, right? So if you were to start a service to be like security and drivers for escorts, right? The act of them being escorts is not illegal. But you being the driver is illegal. Does that make sense? So again, it's not illegal to do the actual act of selling sex. But if you were in any other way making any sort of money, there's any sort of business operation around it, that's illegal.
That's so weird.
That's why it's going back to the Canadian Supreme Court.
So weird. Okay. And I'm saying we as part of Canada already, we can fix that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's really strange. Again, I was listening to a news report about it the other day because they were like, well, this is going on in Canada. I was like, that's neat.
That's so weird. But okay. You know, like the first thing that popped in my head when you were like, it's kind of, not illegal anymore. It's kind of picturing that like loophole that the Mormons go through where like if you can like lay on top of each other and have someone shake the bed or something.
Oh, soaking? Yeah, I've heard about that.
It's like, is that what we're talking about right
now? Nope. Again, look. I don't know what's going to take to get past this puritanical nonsense that these governments want to put into place. That doesn't work. But we've come far afield from our original topic, which is the crazy crap our president-elect is saying. By the way, the Supreme Court arguments about TikTok are tomorrow. They're tomorrow.
Oh.
So, yeah. So there you go. It's only going to get crazier from here. So yeah, Trump filed, the Trump administration filed their amicus brief for the TikTok thing. The oral arguments are tomorrow for them to argue before the Supreme Court as to whether the ban on TikTok can go through on the 19th. Ahead of that, because the arguments are tomorrow, ByteDance released a statement today saying, we're not selling. And if you ban us, we're shutting it down in the U.S. Done. We don't care. I'm going to listen to the arguments tomorrow at some point and try and read the tea leaves.
Where do you fall with TikTok?
What do you mean?
What are your thoughts on TikTok? TikTok kind of has always creeped me out, to be completely honest.
So I have done a considerable amount of content creation on TikTok. In fact, it is the one where I have the most followers, personally.
Oh, so you're like TikTok famous.
No, not quite. I have, you got to break that lovely 100,000 mark. I have just about 3,000 followers on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
So, but I've done a lot of content creation. I've had videos go semi-viral. It happens.
Wow.
It's easier to happen on TikTok. I'm a fan of the platform for what it is. It's a different platform than YouTube or Twitch. Right? In my opinion, each of the platforms has their place. Right? YouTube is good for X type of content.
Yeah.
Twitch is good for this type of content. Right? TikTok is a different type of content. You know, and for what it does it well. There's a reason it's as popular as it is. You know, there's a lot of different places on TikTok, right? Actually, another one that my wife put out. Do you know what's a really, like, what content creators I see a bunch of TikTok is Australian prostitutes who talk about being prostitutes in Australia and what it's like. And now I'm seeing more of the legal escorts from Vegas, from Nevada.
Yeah.
They create a lot of content like, oh yeah, this is like my life, right? Here's the room I live in when I'm at the legal brothel. Here's what I pack, right?
Huh.
They talk about what happens there. Not in like explicit detail, but they're like, yeah, this is the process.
Interesting.
I will say this too. TikTok's algorithm is the smartest one.
Oh. Whoa.
It will figure you out quick, fast, in a freaking hurry. And it will keep feeding you content in a very smart way.
Interesting.
Right? It's the algorithm that will steer you to certain sides of TikTok based on what you're doing. Right? So like my wife, she gets a lot of book talk, right? So lots of like book people who talk about all the smutty fantasy books that they all read.
Oh.
Right?
Like
that's that one
more detail.
What? Yeah, that's a whole side of TikTok. The people who are like, "Hey, do you like smutty fantasy books? Read this series," and they share reviews on the different series of smutty fantasy books. Right? That's a whole side of TikTok. Right? There's film talk, which is just people talking about movies. There's all kinds of stuff. There's whole episodes of Family Guy that you gotta like scroll through 4 videos to get to. But yeah, I mean, TikTok does what TikTok do. I'm really curious because this ban sets a precedent. I can't think of a time in recent memory where our government said, your platform's got to go. Mm-hmm. Right? And again, this was not an executive order. This was not an end run around. This was passed by Congress. Right? It went through the House. It went through the Senate. It was signed by the president. This was legislated. Which was, you have until January 19th to remove ByteDance from ownership and sell to an American company, or we're banning you. Right? And now it's coming. It's 10 days away. And there's a bunch of TikTok offices in Seattle.
Yeah.
There's a crap ton of them. I'm sure those people are really concerned right now. I can tell you TikTok has a considerable amount of office space here in the Puget Sound. Know that for a fact. So,
Interesting.
yeah, that's
yeah. Chat, let us know. Should Jay get a TikTok? Should Jay explore smut book
talk.
TikTok? I don't know. What kind of TikTok do you think I would be interested in? Who knows?
We might get demonetized for that.
Oh, are we monetized? Wait, are you getting paid?
No. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna be fun to listen to those arguments, though.
I will say that. Like, so I myself not ever been a super huge social media guy. I was huge into MySpace. Loved MySpace. Everyone kind of switched over to Facebook. I created a Facebook. Didn't really ever enjoy Facebook as much as I enjoyed MySpace. Never really got into Twitter until like literally like I don't know, like a month ago, and I don't even like Twitter, to be completely honest.
Twitter is not Twitter anymore. It has very much changed since it became X. I got off of Facebook after the 2016 election.
Wow.
Right? I got off of Facebook after the 2016 election. I still have a Facebook page. I share things there occasionally, but my wife will tell you I almost never open Facebook. In fact, I will occasionally open my Messenger and like, oh, hey, somebody I actually wouldn't mind talking to sent me a message like 2 months ago and I didn't know.
Yeah.
I do spend time on Twitter. Twitter's a good place to get a lot of rapid fire stuff, but you have to be suspect of everything you read on Twitter. It's all bullshit since Elon took over. I like TikTok. It's an interesting, but if you want to try your hand at content creation, it's a good place to try. Like video content creation. It is a good place to start.
Yeah.
You have enough stuff going on in your life without it, though.
Yeah, that's my thing. That's always been my thing, is that I would rather just like do other things. Like for instance, even when I was like way more into playing video games, I never liked playing sports like video games because I would just rather go play the sport real life. I don't know. It's just like one of those things. Like,
See, but were you good at sports? For those of us who are not good at sports, we did not want to play in real life. If you were good at sports, you like to play the sport in real life. Just saying.
I think I just like outed myself a little bit. Yeah, I was very weird in high school. I was like the guy that was like into every single little group. So, um, I was captain varsity soccer. I had a track record. Um, so the football team wanted me because could outrun every wide receiver. I did spring training. There was a year where I was going to be a wide receiver on the football team. Was told that I had to do 2-a-days in Alabama over the summer. I said hell no. So did not did not make it to the football team. But then at the same time, so like I would have lunch with like the soccer players, the track team, the football team. So like I was friends with our quarterback. But at the same time, I was like I took a lot of art classes because I love drawing. Um, so I was like friends with all of your like nerdy kind of like anime people. Like my best friends that I hung out with after school, very much like nerdy anime video games. Like we did LAN parties for Halo, all of that kind of stuff. Um, so there's like that, and then I like hung out with like the skate group, the emo group. Like I was like your weird like
I
I
knew
don't know.
people like that. I knew people who could float that
Yeah.
seamlessly. So, but yeah. Again, if you want to create video content, I think TikTok's a good place to start. I don't have the patience to blow up on TikTok. And I'm not sure if that's the type. I like this longer form content. Like that's the style of content I prefer creating. Especially when you first start on TikTok, you're only allowed to create like 60-second videos. I have enough followers and have done enough on TikTok where I can go 10 minutes. So my video cap on my account, my personal account, is 10 minutes. That is the longest video that I'm allowed to upload or post. Which for TikTok is an eternity, right? Again, if you want to try and take your hand at video content, it's not a pleasant place to start. But again, it has its place. It's not YouTube. You know what I mean? YouTube, now YouTube and Instagram have both, with Reels and with YouTube Shorts, have tried to replicate it. The problem is you can't replicate the UI in an as effective a way as TikTok does. And again, their algorithm is so fucking good, right? It knows how to push the content that's going to keep you on the app. Which is why it blew up during COVID. That was when TikTok exploded in popularity, was during COVID. Because it's easy to start in on TikTok and be like, and an hour later. You know, watching literally 2-minute videos the whole time.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know, so take that for what it's worth. I get really sporadic. I don't post enough on TikTok right now to be getting consistent numbers. In the last 12 videos that I've done, the most views I've gotten is 521. In the last, when was this one out? It was nope, that was when I returned.
We lost Alex. He's in the TikTok.
No, I'm trying to look. The biggest one I've gotten in the last like year and a half was 5,000. But right before that, I was getting. I've got one here that's 37,000 views.
Wow.
21,000 views. But like here, I'll give you like a 5 video sequence. 600 views, 37,000 views, 3,000 views, 1,000 views, 21,000 views, 3,800 views, 643 views. Like that's a 8 video sequence of stuff in order that I posted them. Right, so it was like, you know, it's very roller coastery over on the TikToks.
Interesting.
And you don't know what's gonna hit, right? You just don't. It's sometimes it's hard to tell. It's weird. All right, folks, chat. We love you. Chat saying same here about Facebook. No one really posts. I haven't gone on Facebook consistently to tell you anything about Facebook anymore. I actually don't like the platform. I've never been able to get into Instagram. Are you an Instagram guy?
I have like 3 posts on Instagram. I never got into Instagram. Yeah, I don't know. I feel so. Here's my thing. I always feel weird posting about my life, right? This is a little weird to me. I like this. I like jumping on Twitch. I like jumping on YouTube, talking about issues, having this long form. But then like no one wants to know like what I ate for breakfast, you know? I don't know.
I've never been able to quite figure out Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. All right, folks. I guess we're going to call it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you missed any portion of the show, you could probably check that out on the YouTubes in the next day or so. I will go into edit mode right after we get off live here. I used to do photography on Instagram for it was bought by Zuck. Yeah, it's shitty. It's meta with pictures. We'll be back. So the plan going forward, and this is going to be sort of consistent. Yeah. Thursdays, 8 o'clock. That's going to be our time. We got some kind of complaints when we were starting at 7:30. Right? Yeah. A little early. So we'll probably, again, the live button will probably be hit right before 8. But yeah, my intention is we'll go 8 to 9:30. From now on. Right? And if the show really blows up, maybe we'll add a second show. But it's going to have to blow up. So do us a favor. Share it to your friends. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell over there on the YouTubes. Follow us on Twitch. Get us Prime subs. But again, honestly, the biggest thing that gets us is sharing so that search engines can find us and YouTube's algorithm knows to push us. Right? Shares and comments on YouTube videos are huge. So we appreciate those who came tonight, though. So we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.